Good morning.
Good. Great. Welcome, everybody. I saw on the list of issues around the region that leadership was number 10. So it's a hot issue right now, both in Missouri and around the country, as far as issues that are important to in extension and to communities at large. So this was a timely webinar today. So it's called, as you can see on the screen there, Community Leadership Development as an Effective Form of Engagement. So we're going to talk about specifically a little history of community leadership programs and get into what the outcomes are and why it's important to do them in our communities. This is just a page, information page. Dave did one, so I felt compelled to do one as well. He's got another one later on in the slide presentation. This is just my contact information, and this information will come to you later. So go ahead with the next slide. Okay, so I went back and did some research. I knew about a research study done, I think it was 6-state research study that was done of community leadership programs, and a book was written from it. It's on the resource slide that you guys will get, so I won't go into reading the title, but they wrote a book about it, and they did a study of programs in 6 different states around the Midwest and the East, and came up with some of these points. And you can see for yourself that de Tocqueville called America the American habit of forming associations of working collectively toward community solutions from other science. And the term reflected his understanding. Of course, this was back in 1836, and then it was kind of rewritten in the year 2000 by another author. The fundamental role that citizens and citizen participation plays in the governance of a democratic society, in which equality and liberty were core values. So the field today is known as community development, and that's sort of a tough definition for folks, but I did in the research that I looked at. The definition today stems from the work that de Tocqueville did back in the 19th century, and it's just about how Americans have found ways to join together to find issues in their community and get things done and make things better for everyone. And that habit of doing that over and over again has been codified as community development. And then an author called Wren says that the mother science required a new form of leadership suited to a democratic society where sovereignty remained in the hands of people rather than in those of the ruler or elite. So that's one of the main purposes of community leadership development and programs, is to provide capacity, build capacity in individuals who haven't had an opportunity to be in leadership roles or roles of power before, and not so much the status quo. So developing community leaders is an important element of preserving our democratic way of life in the U.S. I think everyone would agree with that. And we do it in many different ways in the U.S. through lots of different types of programs, and we'll talk a little bit about the ones we do in extension later on. But community leadership development is considered, I think, an intervention that's designed to increase, again, our citizens' capacity to be engaged in their community and try to build their community for the future. So next slide. Oh, and you don't have to switch back, but that last comment about it being an intervention, the author, researcher Moore, back in '88, did a research study that showed that these programs are designed to fill gaps in what people know about governance and its processes, especially at the community level. And you might think, well, that sounds, sort of academic, but it means, those gaps of community members not knowing how their community functions, what the different, they're not educated in how their community works and is structured. Okay, now next slide. So research shows that people ask, well, what are the outcomes? What difference does it make? Well, there are concrete positive effects on the community that sponsors these types of programs. People take on and finish a variety of projects, and we have examples of people funding and building YMCAs, passing school bond issues, all kinds of things, passing taxes to build recreation centers and communities, etc. But they feel that these things will benefit the material lives in their community. It also employs a variety of community resources to achieve their goals. So they're working with collaboratives in their community, other resources, participation in leadership programs, builds a social cohesion, and partnerships with many different resources in the community that they can that people can tap, and that these activities appear to be self-organizing. People feel empowered as a result of their experience, and this has been proven when asked these questions. People say that they do feel empowered, that they have a sense of self-efficacy, and a shared sense of purpose or objective without any apparent intervention, encouragement, or approval by formal authorities in the local community. So they get this through their experiences in these leadership programs. Let's see, don't turn the slide yet. I have a couple more comments to make. But what we've seen is that these newly organized citizens are doing projects and taking on problems that range from conserving natural resources and green spaces for environmental reasons, looking at or creating leisure activities, raising money to support health programs, health initiatives, creating spaces in which the arts are flourish and have opportunities to show their artwork and also attract tourism and supplement the local economy and much more. And so what matters is how people feel about themselves and their neighbors as a result of these programs. And those of you who have experience with that, I think, will agree. But how they assess their personal and collective leadership efficacy and their commitment to the place they live is very important. We add to that a bit of knowledge about how to get things done in people's communities and some specific network connections that we spoke of earlier, and you have the basis for forms of public work that can benefit all community residents. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Okay, these are just three points that I wanted to make before we get into some details about programs. Leadership programs have expanded the pool of emerging leaders who are more involved in their communities and local issues. It has been documented that the role of these programs in community action do alleviate poverty, and having a diverse group of participants in all of these areas of ethnicity, gender, employment, etc., as well as other factors, are key components of the program. But there's always a but, right? Still, there are a few studies that document the demographic makeup of programs as related to sponsorship. So there's some concerns raised that leadership programming still caters too much to categories of people who have traditionally occupied positions of leadership. So we have to keep that in mind, I think, when, not that that's a bad thing, but typically chambers of commerce, other organizations have programs that focus more on existing leaders. Okay, next slide. So again, experience shows that individuals, not so much looking at the community perspective, from the community perspective, but from the individual perspective, that people are more involved on boards and committees, especially extension councils. So it's a good way of building a capacity there. Both appointed and elected boards, they're involved in more community activities. They're more confident in participating in civic action, so they get more involved in issues related to economic development, city government, issues that come up in the community. And this could be, doesn't have to be a formal position. It could be president of the PTO, it could be Sunday school superintendent at their church, you know, it could be a wide range of activities. It doesn't have to be formal. There could be lots of informal types of things they get involved in. They have a better understanding of local government and the local economy, which is very critical, I think, in today's world. They effectively develop these partnerships and coalitions, and I've seen testimonials of individuals who say that they feel like that if an issue comes up or a project, they have a wealth of people that they can call on to work with them on the project or the issue, or it could be a crisis in the community even. And they're able to communicate in an inclusive manner, which is critical. So Dave, you're on the next two slides. So I'll turn it over to my illustrious colleague, David Burton.
Wow, thank you, Joanne.
You're welcome.
Well, I guess I'm supposed to kind of give an overview of some of the leadership programs we've done here in Greene County and the impact of that. And Joanne's been a great guide on that. I mean, she literally wrote the curriculum for our Excel leadership program, and she's been very, very helpful in helping launch that, and has launched lots of leadership programs. And every county is going to be have its own unique nuances. And I know in Greene County, I had tried for a number of years to do partnerships to launch a leadership program, like with our local chambers of commerce, local Rotary clubs, someone that can help fund some of the cost. And those organizations over the course of 12 years all said no, several times actually, because they had their own budget concerns and they were needing to do programming that would generate money for them. And so finally, out of just a frustration, I guess, I started looking at ways that Extension could launch some of these programs without a partner. And one of the reasons I did that, in Greene County, there are 6 colleges. Every one of those colleges does a community leadership program. And the Springfield Chamber of Commerce does Leadership Springfield, which they charge $1,900 a person for, by the way, for enrollment. So there's no shortage of leadership programs. Like you said earlier, it's a hot button issue. People are very interested in it. And there are lots of opportunities to sign up for these programs, especially in Springfield. And so without a partner, and then looking at that as me being one person doing the teaching or launching that, where I saw an area of weakness in Greene County was taking leadership programs to the smaller communities in the county. People who didn't want to or couldn't drive to Springfield for a program, or didn't have the resources to pay for some of the leadership programs in Springfield, all of which charged one amount or another. And so that kind of has become our niche, and our area of success is taking the program to these smaller communities. They can go home in the evening, check in with the family, then come to the program. Typically, I run them 6:30 to 8:30, and people usually end up being there till 9 or after visiting. And that seems to, based on my experience, be a good time frame for people. There certainly is no perfect time or perfect day of the week. You can poll people about what to do, and they still won't show up. So here's an example of that. After several years of having a good attendance for a program, leadership program in Willard, I launched another one the next year, as I had in the past, and we had 0 enrollment. And I had marketed it really the same way. And so I tried to relaunch it again, put some more money into marketing. I still had 0 enrollment. So I went back to the people that had been in the class previously, and what I kept hearing from them was, oh, life is so busy. People just can't come to meetings anymore. Maybe if you made the program all online or electronic or self-directed, I bet you'd have a lot of people enroll. So I invested time in developing something like that, and looking at the leadership program in a new way on how we could deliver it differently. And sure enough, when I relaunched that, the enrollments came rolling in, not just from Willard, but from all over the county. Over the past year and a half, I've had 78 people enroll in that program. But here's the downside, the part that's deceptive when you ask people what they want. Out of the 78, I've only had 2 complete the program. Out of the 78, I've only had 8 of them actually complete the first component of the program. There was enthusiasm in enrolling, but a big failure at completion or follow through. And so as I've gone back to some of those folks and talked, they all thought they wanted this online version. They all thought they wanted this self-directed sort of leadership training. But then they all ultimately said what they missed was the networking. So they really did miss the face-to-face. So it wasn't the failure of people to enroll in the one leadership program in Willard was not a failure in our timing or day of the week or things like that. I don't think it was a failure to connect with the right people who wanted to make an investment of their time in leadership training. So you really do have to, people do have to make an investment in this. You get out of it what you put into it. And I think the failure of this online self-directed effort demonstrates that. You get out of it what you put into it. Now, with that said, we have had 2 graduates from that program, one of whom is now already filed to run for a state representative in our region. So there is a success story, and the other one has enrolled in college to go back to get a college degree. So both of those are success stories, and there are other success stories with the other local programs. But I think more than anything for me, doing these leadership programs in the community gives Extension great exposure and great community contacts. We're launching a leadership program for youth in Republic, starts next week. And my co-teacher for that is the mayor of Republic. And that only came about because of these other leadership efforts. And that partnership has already led to some discussions for other programming. So it is a great benefit to me professionally and to Extension's exposure, as well as to the community and the people that take the programming. And many of our graduates, we've had some Excel graduates run for mayor. We've had another one run for state rep. 3 of them got together and have launched a community foundation now in the town of Ash Grove, which is where my next leadership program launches on September 17th, called Leadership Ash Grove. And so there are great spin-offs, and it's exciting to be a part of that. And I think once you kind of jump in and get one under your belt and get going, I think you'll find that it opens doors to probably more programming and opportunities than you can keep up with. You probably have to make some choices on what to do and what not to do. So I think, Joanne, does that kind of address the main things we had discussed?
Yes, it does. And here's the information about David on this slide.
I will add one other thing. This is off script a little bit. My son's a junior in college, and he's a business major, but he's in a sort of a niche program, which is event management is the program. And he was telling me last night, he was preparing for a test in his class, and he was telling me how the American economy is changing. We used to talk about it. It's had different phases, and it became a service economy. And a lot of what they're talking about in this class now is about how the American economy is becoming more of an experience economy, and where people don't want to just sit down and listen to somebody. They want to go to an event or go to something that provides an experience. And I thought that was an interesting insight that I'd not heard, really. It made me start thinking about some of our programming in Greene County, maybe a little differently, but it also, I felt, reinforced the power of the Excel leadership program if you make it local and it's in the community and people have this chance for experiences that they might not, experiences and meetings and things that they might not otherwise have as an individual.
Mm-hmm. Great. David, I would like to thank you for providing the CED-CES perspective on the leadership programs that Johanna offers. So thank you. Back to you.
Okay, just flip to the next slide if you would, please. It's just something that you'll get a copy of, but it's just the references of if you need something to go in a grant proposal or an abstract or something like that of, proof positive that community leadership programs do make a difference. These are some resources. The book that you might want to get a copy of is the one by, it's about midway down by Ken Pigg, P-I-G-G. It's the one that's on the study of 6 states and many leadership programs. Get a hold of a copy of that and read through it. It's got some actual tables and things like that that gives you some specific statistical analysis and that sort of thing. It's a pretty good read. It's not real technical, but not that you can't handle that. But it's, as far as getting through it, it's not a bad read, and it's got there's some fodder in there, some data that you could use in, like I said, grant writing or report writing, things like that we all look for. So at this juncture, I want to throw it back to the audience. I've got some slides prepared that I showed at the spring meeting that we had at the Drury Inn about specific programs and their impacts. But I think maybe I'll ask you all if you want to just ask questions at this point, or do you want more details about the Excel program and the Step Up to Leadership program, or would you just rather open it up to questions that you may have? I guess raise your hand if you want to open it up to questions, and if
So Mallory's manning the chat. If you want to chat, whether you'd like more information about specific programs, please put that into the chat.
You want to open it up for a discussion, or you want me to go on with the slide?
Or if you want to, if folks would rather jump into discussion, you can either chat the discussion or unmute yourself. Or share your experience. Good point, Mallory.
It's John Gulick. I'll just share one quick thing if you don't mind.
Sure, John.
And again, great overview. And again, you know, I've had the benefit of working with Johanna for many years, probably back to the last century, actually. So 20 plus.
Yeah, right.
So, but one of the other things, Chris Kemke and I had the opportunity the last 2 or 3 years of working up in Northeast Missouri on a Leadership Northeast program. And I know Claire Wolf has been doing stuff in the St. Louis area too, where Extension is part of a larger partnership, and we become just one piece of the leadership program. So again, that's another opportunity. And in Leadership Northeast Leadership Northwest has been a program for 25 years. So those of you that are in Northwest can probably look into that, and they've had a leadership program for, you know, probably 25 years. Northeast Missouri really didn't have a comparable regional leadership program like that. And so about 3 years ago, there was an effort to do that. Carolyn Chrisman, who's up in Kirksville, works with SBDC, but also is the economic developer there in Kirksville, was kind of she kind of has her foot in both regions, and she was kind of the mother of the effort to start the regional effort in Northeast Missouri. It basically took us about 2 years to do that. We had Sherry Shennewick from Missouri Department of Economic Development, Cami Moan from Northeast Power, the rural electric co-ops up there. Actually, several, Chris and I were involved. We had actually a pretty good team that, you know, was about 4 or 5 different agencies working together. And it took us about 2 years, but actually they had the first class last year with 16 participants from around the region. And then I know they're in their second class. I'm no longer in the Northeast region, so I'm not involved, but they're having their second class now. But long story short, what I'm just suggesting is that another thing for us to look to is in these cases, kind of extensions, what you've been sharing with David, and I appreciate David's great insights too, is where, you know, Extension actually takes the lead. There is opportunity where we actually partner with others and become part of the team. That's what I'm trying to say, I guess. So, thanks.
Thank you. And I think Meredith has a comment. I don't know, Mallory, do you want to handle that, or?
Meredith, do you want to make a comment? I can't see the chat without you, so you have to just.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you, Meredith.
Okay, I have a new headset, so I wasn't sure how well it worked. So we had tried to do a leadership in Trenton, and we did not get enough people coming on board, but we had heard from several of them had been Northwest leadership graduates, and what they were saying was it was not as much about leadership qualities and teaching people, you know, some of the things that leaders do, and it was more about networking and going from this community to that community. So we had actually set it up so that every time we focused on a part of the community, the person who was in charge of that particular class was also in charge of doing one activity that would show some leadership skills or help develop some leadership skills, whether it would be a team building activity or doing something like showing them how to facilitate in a meeting, some of the strategies that we might use in getting everybody to participate in an event or something. So we have made a few little changes with that. Sadly, the program didn't make, but we may still go on and do that again. But I thought that was a great idea, that as part of our, we did less traveling and more demonstration. So
Meredith, if I can just, this is John again, if I could respond to it. I actually called upon Johanna to give us some guidance when we were working with Leadership Northeast, and she suggested a really good resource that we actually use. So again, we had the components of moving around the region and, different topics, transportation, broadband, workforce. Every session would be a different topic, and we would gain some new insights on that. But we also spent an hour at every session using a resource that Johanna had suggested, and was a very good suggestion, which was the Leadership Challenge by, is it Kozes and
Kozes and Posner.
And again, there's both a hard copy book as well as kind of a workbook version. And again, we had each of our 16 participants kind of use that and then apply it back to their work situation as far as some leadership opportunity that they had within a work, either their actual work or a volunteer experience they had. So, and the insights that they shared as a response to the discussion about that leadership challenge book was really, we kind of initiated the discussion, used the book as a resource, but just gained a lot of valuable insights from their actual life experiences sharing. Probably, and again, I'll keep this short, but one of the people was talking about their leader at their workplace. He said they evidently had read one of these leadership books, because every week he would send a thing out about, thank you for all the good stuff you've done. And again, well, they were thinking, well, that was a nice, but it became clear after the third or fourth time that it wasn't personalized at all. He was just somewhere he had picked up that you should recognize your coworkers or whatever, and he was doing it in a way that it actually became a negative, because they could tell it wasn't personal at all. It was just that he had put on his calendar, okay, got to recognize your people this week. On Friday you got to send out and it became almost a negative. So, but insights like that from our workers, but that came from utilizing that resource as a starting point for the conversation for them to bring in their personal experiences.
Johanna, will you type in the name of the book and the authors, please, in the chat, so I can write that down? Thank you. And another thing, just FYI, my soul class started last week, the Step Out and Up to Leadership. So today is my second day going in, so I'm pretty excited about it. Had really good response.
Well, for some reason it's not letting me type in.
You can email it to me.
Okay, I can email it to Mallory or Sarah, and Mallory. They can send it out.
Email it to Mallory right now, and she can type it into the chat. Any other questions? Okay. Does anyone want Johanna to go through her slides on the different programs?
Or we can just talk, whatever.
We can talk and have questions and answer.
I'm sending.
I see a couple things going in the chat.
Okay.
Oh, John.
Mallory.
Okay, James.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I can flip through Johanna's slides, and we'll post these slides onto Canvas. And
I have a couple points. One is David Burton mentioned that he does a book study in his groups, and that's also a good technique. But if you're, if you're interested in doing a leadership program, let me know, and we've got lots of resources if you're looking for ideas for the curriculum. But I do encourage you to partner with existing entities to start a leadership program. The first advice I give is start a steering committee that consists of kind of the movers and shakers in your community. So that's one way of partnering. Don't feel like you have to do it all by yourself. There are people in your community that are willing to give you input as to what the program should look like in your community, because it's a little different in different locations. So any other questions? If not, I know some of you are doing leadership programs like Claire and John and David and I can't see everybody's name at the moment, but have got experience. So, reach out to your colleagues as well and talk with them about doing a program. But Excel, if you want to talk just briefly about Excel, we're on Leadership Online. You want me to talk about that one now?
Nope, I was just kind of flipping through the slides.
Okay.
So you could see them, but
Sure.
talk about Excel, I will slide back to there.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Excel really is an approach to community leadership. It's not a curriculum, but I do have a template that I'd be happy to share with Mallory, and she can send out to the group. And I'm just making a note of that.
Thanks, Johanna.
And it does increase the capacity of individuals and organizations, and this slide gives you an idea of the outcomes. And I already mentioned that it's really a process more so than a prepackaged program. Anyone participates, anyone and everyone is encouraged to participate. It's been done with youth and adults and combinations of youth and adults. The program's been around since the first one was in 1984. We have a community leadership development team that consists of Misty Ritter, David, Burton, Claire, Ripple, help me guys, Jackie Spainhauer, and am I missing anybody? That's working on putting some resources together, like we have a database of leadership programs in the past in the state. We're updating that, and we're thinking about and being encouraged to do some kind of conference, leadership conference. So we're trying to reach out to people, get ideas, provide some resources. So there is a handbook of Excel, a handbook that I can scan and send you. It's out of print, but I can, like I said, scan it and send it to you, or put it on box. That would be even better. That kind of walks you through the planning process. So you can go to the next slide, Sarah, please.
Yeah.
These are just some of the topics. I saw a quote once from, his name escapes me. He's the CEO of the Kettering Foundation, who talked about the purpose of community leadership is really about learning about how the community works, and the structure and that sort of thing. And so these are some example topics that programs have touched upon, and we mentioned some of those earlier. So
Great.
you can really make it your own. Yes? Someone want to say something? Okay, next slide. Next slide. Leadership Online for Today is an online program that is fairly new. We've done, let's see, I think two full cohorts. David Burton is one of my coaches, and we have some other coaches trained in the state, some of which have moved on, so we need to rebuild that capacity. But it's 11 sessions. It's really targeted toward millennials, but it's not limited to millennials. It's done on Canvas, so you guys are getting familiar with Canvas and how that works. And we also use VoiceThread, which is a software platform where they do their assignments and talk to one another and can see each other and that sort of thing. So it is a cost involved. It's $225 per person, and there'll be another one coming up soon. I've got to do some updates on the Canvas piece of it. They want us to do some changes on how it's structured. So I haven't done that yet, but as soon as I do that, we'll have another program I'll let you guys know about. And if any of you are interested in being a coach, let me know and we'll get you trained. It's not, David can chime in on that. It's not too strenuous. It does take a little bit of time to do in 11 sessions, but it's kind of fun. David, you want to say anything about being a coach?
It is fun. You just need to schedule some of the activities, the weekly update, and then you do need to go in and give feedback on people's posts. So you do have to make an investment of time. I'm not sure how much time. I'm not sure I could even estimate.
Yeah.
On that.
It's a cool program. We have newsletters that two electronic newsletters go out each week. And there are assignments on Canvas, narrated PowerPoints on each lesson, and it's a good program. If you need brochures on it to sell in your community, let me know and I'll mail you some. It is cool in that anybody from anywhere in the country or world, for that matter, can do the program. We've had out-of-state participants both times who've been involved, some extension people from other states. And I'm looking at a comment on chat. Sure. I think your options for leadership programs, I mean, you can design, whatever. That's why it's important to access your community members and talk with them about what they want a leadership program to provide and to offer the local citizens or residents. So there's really it's no clear-cut situation for an Excel program or Leadership Online for Today. It's just whatever fits what the local residents need or want. And we can always customize something, help you customize something for a community. And then Patricia and I have been talking about the Leadership Miller County program, and they've started with a steering committee, and she and I have been in contact quite a bit. So that's the Leadership Online for Today program. You can learn more about it on the Extension webpage. So you can go to the next slide, please. This I think I've already covered. And these are the topics. And the topics get into more, we use the Clifton Strengths Finder book and assessment as a developing a baseline for these potential leaders. And it gets more at some of the leadership skills like communication, conflict, collaboration, engagement, empathetic listening. So it's a little bit different than the ones that focus on the community at large. It's more of a focused on self. So go to the next slide, please. And stop me if you have any questions. The Step Up to Leadership program's been around a while. It was originally done with the Community Action Agency. So if you're interested in exploring that, you might want to touch base with your Community Action Agency people and see if they are doing one or would like to collaborate and do one. But if they're not, you can certainly go ahead and do it yourself or work with others to do it yourself. It's a curriculum in that there's a facilitator's manual, a facilitator's guide, and a participant's manual. And I have copies of those, and I can send you. There's a cost for the facilitator's guide is $100, and the participant manuals are $10 each. So if you're interested in that, let me know, and I'll get you a copy, or we'll work out something. I can send you a sample participant manual. Go to the next slide, please. It's an 11-session program also, and is geared at helping people learn skills to be on boards. And there's additional discussion topics that have been added to it that we worked on with University of Illinois Extension. And again, it's a good resource to have even if you're not going to do it as a program, because there's lots of activities, information, content that you can utilize in other ways, in other programs that you do, as a standalone thing that you might do with an organization or project that you're working with. So it's a good resource to have. Next slide. These are the sessions. Again, it deals a lot with learning how to be on the board, the legalities and practicalities of that, learning how to read a budget, learning how to deal with conflict, how to understand and embrace diversity, how to do funding, how to get funding, that sort of thing. So how to act in a meeting, some parliamentary procedure tips, and there's a personality assessment in it called the Birds of a Feather, which is based on the Myers-Briggs analysis, which is a little different take on personality assessments. So if you're interested in that, let me know, and like I said, I will get you the information.
Great.
I think that's the last slide.
You're welcome. Any other questions for Johanna before we wrap up?
It's almost 10, so.
Great. All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Johanna and David, for participating.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
We will get the video posted, as soon as we can. And any resources Johanna has to pass along, we'll get those posted too. Any other last comments or questions? If not, thanks everybody. Have a good day.